Oh. So, since we won't have a formal lunch this class period, we will we'll go until 11:23. That looks like that's my calculation for 45 minutes. You guys can check my math if that's wrong. Caitlin, the attendance assignment is on Canvas. Caden Napier, I don't think you were here either. Make sure you do the attendance assignment so you get credit for being here. Is your power off, Caden? Is your power off? Okay. All righty. So here's the deal for today. We will have, well, first of all, thank you guys for coming. As you can see, about a third to half the class is here. And so I really appreciate it. Now, of course, some people aren't here because they can't be here. And that's okay too. So Unit 4 exam grades came out, and much snaps to Caden Napier for being our 4th period champion. Snaps to you, Caden Napier. McKinley seems very happy that you became the champion. She's like, all right. So good job, Caden. The curve ended up being 6 points overall, I think, or something like that. Anyway, you guys did very well. If you have assignments that are late, you can turn them in for 3/4 credit. I strongly suggest you guys do that. Apparently, there's legislation in the state house to allow for students to do a do-over year for the grade that they're in. I don't know if that means you get to choose or if they're going to make everybody do it, but should be interesting. Somebody told me that they're going to let athletes have another year of eligibility too. Did you hear that, Caden? Yeah, so that should be interesting. Let's see how that goes. Regardless, you have a test at the end of the year, and the day of the test has been changed. It is now May 20th. So it's the week before the last week of school, which that's a good thing because we get a little bit more time to take the test. Let's see. So even though I have everything broken up into lessons, today, obviously, we only got about halfway through lesson 1 on Friday. If we do well, we'll get about halfway through lesson 2 today. But just remember that the only thing that's due in your notes when you turn them in on Canvas is just what we went over. So don't feel like somebody asked last time, do they need to go ahead and go to the end of lesson 1? And no, it's just what we go over. And to add to that, so I noticed some people were just retyping the slides in their notes. I would say probably about 5 people across all the AP World classes or just typing the slides. And so that's not a good way to take notes. So here's the way I'm going to try to help motivate you guys. The first thing is I'm not going to post the slides until the end of the unit. Okay. Not going to post the slides until the end of the unit. Now, the lessons and the slides are available through the recorded Google Meets, right? And so they're always there for you. But I really want to encourage you guys to take notes as we go. All right. And so you can do that one of two ways. The first way is to just write notes, and that's cool. Definitely, I'm going to be pointing out stuff that you should jot down, stuff that's not on the slides. And then the other way, this is the way I would do it, even if it's not the most efficient way, because this is how you're going to have to do it in the future, is I would just have one side of my screen with the Google Meet and the other side with the Google Docs, and just type as I go. I think that's the smartest way to do it. And when you get to college and you have to turn in your notes, it's going to be electronic. Now, if you're the kind of person that you have to write, that's totally cool too. But you're going to have to transfer them over. But I looked at, so I made this the policy this morning in first and second period, and about half the people that were in the class just turned their notes in right then. And so that's a good way to not have any AP World homework until Thursday, hang on just a second. Okay. So I think that's everything. Don't know what's up with school. And as far as weather goes, if I were betting on weather, I would say we won't be back to the high school in person this week. But that's just me. Ooh, someone's calling me from California. Hello? Oh, they hung up. Gosh darn it. Okay. Oh, that reminds you. Had a few parents send me remind messages. And you guys have done a good job of just sending me emails. Just make sure your parents know I can't read them. I can't read remind messages. So if they need to get in touch with me, remind them that they need to send me emails. And I love talking to people, but I need to have an email so I can actually read it. Oh, something I forgot. I think this week you guys were supposed to start scheduling your classes for next year. I just want to remind you guys to consider to take my Intro to Special Ed dual credit class. It counts for a diversity credit, which everybody has got to have. And it's not just for teachers, it's for anybody that's going to college. There's no homework, it's good discussion, and you really should consider taking it. And it's interesting because we get to learn about all sorts of special needs situations. And then if you guys decide to be teachers or special ed teachers, I will be even triply proud of you because we need good teachers. All righty then. Let's head back over to where we were on hang on just a second. Okay. Nod your head if you can see it. Say laissez-faire. Nod your head. Okay. And okay, so on Friday, I don't feel like I did the best job of describing what Adam Smith was about. And the answer is capitalism. That's the answer. He's the capitalism guy. He wrote a book called Wealth of Nations. You don't have to know the name of his book. Hello, Jordan. Go do the attendance assignment in Canvas, okay? This phrase here, laissez-faire, means hands off. And what that means, and what I would jot down here is laissez-faire equals gov hands off of econ. Government, keep your hands off of the economy. And this is the example I gave on Friday about the oranges. If all the people are competing, then that's going to bring the prices down. And it's going to widen the selection. It's only going to bring the prices down as far as the seller is making enough profit to motivate them to sell. It won't bring the prices lower than that because the seller will stop selling. Okay. So if capitalism is government, stay out of the economy. The example I give for laissez-faire is I have a feeling that a lot of you guys do not have laissez-faire parents. You don't have hands-off parents. Okay. I just got an email from the parent of a kid in another class, and it was titled, "This Kid's Grades." Okay. That parent is hands-on. That parent is thinking about this person, their kid's grades, and trying to fix it. Okay. They're not laissez-faire. A laissez-faire parent is the kind of parent that you roll into the house at like 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, and they're sitting on the couch watching TV, and they're like, "Hey, sup, man?" And then you walk upstairs and go to sleep. And you come to school the next day and fall asleep in first period. That's a laissez-faire parent. Hands off. Okay. Leave them alone. So, is the United States a capitalist country? Sort of. Okay. Sort of in that we let the free market drive a lot of what we do. But the government does get involved. So our economy took a giant hit last year, right? Took a giant hit. And because of that, people weren't spending money. And if people aren't spending money, the economy starts to spiral out of control. So President Trump said, let's send out stimulus checks, where you basically take money that the government has and give it to people and hope that the people spend the money to kind of try to jumpstart the economy. Now, that is not just a President Trump thing. Okay. President Obama did it in 2009 after the 2008 housing collapse. The economy, they call it the Great Recession. So the economy started to recede back. And so raise your hand if you've ever ridden in a Chevrolet or a Cadillac or a GM car or truck. Okay, most of you guys, okay, cool. If that vehicle was built after 2009 and Congress and President Obama didn't flood billions of dollars into General Motors, that car wouldn't exist. General Motors would have closed. And a ton of people would have lost their job. Now, the market, if we were really laissez-faire, the market would just eat up General Motors. But we went in and saved it. We as in the government. President George W. Bush, President Obama, President Trump, and now President Biden have all given us stimulus checks at some time. Okay, so it's not a Democrat or Republican thing. Now, Courtney and I, being the responsible adults that we are, when we got our stimulus checks back in the summer, we bought what we call our Donald Trump scooters. You can see there. Okay, and so hers has the pink helmet on it. And mine's the awesome one that can go 24 miles an hour. And I am getting a new motor put on it in the spring where it'll go 41 miles an hour, and I'm going to die. So hopefully it's after the AP exam and you guys can pass that thing. So I'm pumped. But we took our money and we put it in the economy by buying Chinese scooters. So yeah, one day I'm just going to bring it to school and just whiz down the hallway the wrong way, giving all the kids giving. This is after COVID, of course, and everybody's giving me high fives, and they're like, Brock. Can't wait. Okay, capitalism. So when the government gets really involved in the economy, that is not a free market. And the more control the government has over the economy, the more things go to the left. And after we get far enough left, communism. Okay. Is the United States capitalist? No. Is the United States communist? No. Is it capitalist? Yes. Is it communist? Yes. It depends on where we look at in the economy, but that is your boy, Adam Smith. Now, if talking about communism is not enough to get me fired, let's talk about religion. So people are going to say that the founding fathers were Christians, and that they, and a lot of people are going to use that for evidence that we need to move towards being a more Christian country. Okay, they are totally right. Right, there weren't a ton of Hindus and Muslims signing the Constitution, right? But just like with the capitalism communism thing, it's complicated. So a great majority of the founding fathers, they were Christians. I mean, what does it take to be a Christian, right? You believe Jesus died for your sins, right? And you get saved. So all these guys that did this, but they also had this really interesting philosophy, and it was very popular at the time, and it is deism. Deism, okay, and the Latin root deo means God. All right, so the name deism does not really help us at all, right? They're like, okay, Godism. But the word I would write beside deism, and this will help you explain it perfectly, is watchmaker. Watchmaker. So the deists have really have applied like enlightened scientific logic, and they apply that to their understanding of God. Today, watches are made by, like, they go through a factory, robot, stamp, watch, right? But in the 1600s, to make a watch was almost a miracle, right? Like, it's these tiny, tiny little gears. And they all have to be perfectly together. And they have to have perfect rhythm to go around. And they have to be able to be wound to work. And they are just a huge deal. So Um, the deist, you know, there's nothing in the Bible they don't believe, right? They believe um, on in the 6 days God created everything, and on the seventh day He rested. Like they believe all that stuff. But they go in and talk about just how big of a deal it was for God to be able to do that. And so when they call God the watchmaker, they say that the stuff He does is so intricate we can't even understand it, right? Like we can't apply logic to it. It's so great. But then they have a um, they have a spin on it that most modern religious views, not just Christian views, but Jewish views, Muslim views, Hindu views, that a lot of them don't share. And it is that God made the watch. The watch is the universe. God fired it up, twisted it, cranked it, sat it down, and walked away. And their view of God is, I think maybe I've said this before, they don't view God as like a kid who made an ant farm, right? And then he's just like looking in the ant farm and be like, hey, why is that one going that way? That's weird. That's strange, right? They're like, God is way too great to be worried about me and whether or not I steal, 65 packs of Starburst from the Stanford Walmart. Nobody was watching, guys. Nobody. And God doesn't care, right? That is very different than the way most people view God today. But they say He wound the watch and walked away. He's not worried about all this crap going on. They say it's kind of selfish to think that. Okay, let's apply this to Galileo, right? When Galileo went in front of the Catholic Church said, Galileo, are you trying to tell us that we're not the reason God exists? Right? I exist because God exists. God exists because I exist. I'm not the thing that God's worried about the most. I'm not talking about me as a person. I'm talking about humanity. Right? You guys, anybody ever watch the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven? Anybody ever watch that from way back in the day? Okay, Caden has. All right. It's a sweet little movie. But it's like the deists look at it as, okay, God makes us an ant farm to live in. And then when we die, we go to a cooler ant farm. Or we go to a very hot ant farm. And that's just the way it is. God's not that worried. And so I have a quote here from Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine, of course, is the common sense pamphlet writer that basically said in America, hey, guys, we're getting taxated, but we don't even get represented, right? And here's what he says. Oh, by the way, deists. George Washington, John Adams. John Adams is the real father of our country, by the way. Don't forget it. He's the guy that said, Thomas Jefferson, go write a declaration. While George Washington is out, like, cannon booming people, John Adams is like, we need to be our own country. John Adams, George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Paine, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, all these guys. Deists. Okay. And so here's what Thomas Paine says about deists. It says the deist needs none of those tricks and so-called miracles, there's the typo, and so-called miracles to confirm his faith. For what can be a greater miracle than the creation itself and his own existence? And so one thing that the deists do that a lot of modern religious people do, but a lot of modern religious people don't. They really see a lot of the things in the Bible that can't be explained by a uh, natural physical things. Um, they say those things are metaphors. And of course, I bet if I went across the 10 people that are in this room, I bet we would get different ideas about whether things are metaphors in the Bible or whether things actually happened in the world, right? Like Moses parting the Red Sea, right? And there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that. So that's deism. And here's my really fancy PowerPoint I made back in the day. You're going to like this now. So we're going to go to the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment. Okay. And when we talk about the Enlightenment, I want to give you a very basic definition of Enlightenment. And this is really what you need to know. I'm going to explain my brains out. You'll start to see my brains leaking out my ear here in a second. But here's what you have to know. Enlightenment equals scientific method applied to society. Enlightenment equals scientific method applied to society. So if we think about the scientific method, we can definitely find out today through IQ tests if men are any smarter than women, right? Can't we scientifically find that out? It's even. When you account for everything, women are not dumber than men. If you look at the number of males in AP classes to females in AP classes, at least at Rock Castle, you know, I'm seeing more ladies than gentlemen right now. Okay. Of course, taking an AP class doesn't necessarily mean you're smart or dumb. Can we do the same thing for races? Can we look at the different races and say, you know, is this race better than this race? Is this race is it natural for us to enslave Black people? You know, what research can we do? And so they start applying all of this reason and rationality to society. And we've already talked about religion with deism, and we already talked about economics with Adam Smith and capitalism. By the way, when capitalism gets kind of crazy and goes into the Industrial Revolution, and people start really treating the factory workers really bad, then all this capitalism over here is going to go, and people are going to start using the Enlightenment to argue for communism. It's coming. Get ready. Okay. But it's reason, it's rationality. We call these people the philosophes. And as you can probably guess, philosophe just means philosopher. It's French. Philos means love. Like, have you guys heard of Harry Potter? There's a guy named Xenophilius. Love good. or Lovejoy. Luna's dad, Xenophilius. Xeno means weird stuff, and Phileas means love. And if you know about those people, they are weird. They love weird stuff. There's a city called Philadelphia. Phila, meaning love. Delphi, meaning brothers. The city of brotherly love. Okay, so the philosophers, philos means love. Osophy means studying. That's basically what it means. But here it is knowledge, love of knowledge. Okay. And so here are the major beliefs of these people who are pushing the Enlightenment. Okay. Logic, reason. Right? Said that already. We can explain it. I talked to Mr. Bustle this morning about, how to do my classes and stuff. And he's like, Mr. Brock, hopefully next week everything will be fine. And I'm like, no, Mr. Bustle, no, in my luck, there's going to be a volcano explode in the friggin' parking lot, right? Because everything we try to do to have school, it's just go pow, pow, pow. That's not very Enlightenment thinking that I'm having. I'm just being a goofball. But we don't have like a ½ inch of sleet in front of my house because God decided to ruin my lesson plans, right? We have sleet outside because of cold fronts moving down from the north and some moisture's coming up from the south. And we could track that stuff, right? And if a volcano does go off in front of the school next week, there's a scientific reason why. But I mean, think about how early people explain stuff, right? The reason Zeus is the lightning guy is because when lightning started flying around in Greece, the Greeks didn't have any way to explain it. So there's a buff old dude with long white hair chucking lightning bolts at the temple. He's mad. I don't know if you guys thought this when you were a kid, but when I was a kid, somebody told me that whenever thunder happened, God was bowling, right? And that's the way I understood it, right? But the truth is, lightning and thunder is like ions in the atmosphere, right? Now, did God make that happen? Right? That is your religious understanding of science. And some people accept science wholeheartedly. Some people accept science in relationship to religion. And some people accept religion wholeheartedly and dismiss science, which is fine. This is what the Enlightenment philosophers say. They are progressive. They are progressive. Another word I would put here is utopian. Utopian. Any of you super awesome, smart people know what a utopia is? Just say it if you do.
A utopia is like a perfect world where nothing ever goes wrong.
Excellent. Yes. And so what's really interesting is in the 1800s in the US, there's going to be all these utopian communities that start up. And there's actually still some here. And it's where, of course, it's not completely perfect, right? They're dealing with sleet today. But it's the idea of we're going to make society completely even, completely equal. And we're going to give everybody what they need and what they want. And it's a strive to get that way. And if you read books, if you're one of those book readers, you'll see that a lot of modern books are dystopian. And in those dystopian means like a hellscape, right? Like it's terrible. In a lot of those dystopian novels, they start off as we're trying to make a utopia, but it turns into a dystopia for some people. And then for some people, like in the Hunger Games, right? Like in the Capitol, everybody. Look at me relating to the kids, Harry Potter, Hunger Games. I mean, it's 2004. You got this. All right. So yeah, utopia, that's what they're trying to get to. Okay. And yeah. So wrong button, right button. Major important. Natural rights. Because the philosophers are trying to explain things without attributing these things to the gods, they're going to call these rights natural rights. They're going to say they come from nature. But the truth is, all these people are Christians and all these people believe in the Old Testament. And so my definition for natural rights, and a lot of theirs too, is going to be God-given rights. By the way, if you believe in God, you should always capitalize his name. And also, you should always capitalize any pronouns when you're talking about God or Jesus. It's funny, I get, in a normal year, I have an admission assignment to get into AP World. And I ask people to write about the most important people in different time periods. And almost everybody picks Jesus for like that, his time period or whatever. And I cannot believe how many of them don't know that you capitalize always pronouns, but always do that. A little English for you in your social studies today. God gives me natural rights. They are listed in the U.S. Bill of Rights. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of petition, and freedom of assembly. That's the First Amendment. Freedom of privacy. My favorite one. Freedom to have an awesome gun to shoot things with. I shoot stuff. And people, if they come in my house. Well, I mean, I guess if they come in my house just to, have dinner or something, I wouldn't shoot them. Depends on the person, though. So, God gives me these rights, and this is really important, and the government can't take them away. A pretty famous slave owner named Thomas Jefferson, he dated his slave. And that slave had a baby. I don't know what happened between the dates and the baby, but that happened. Thomas Jefferson wrote this thing called the Declaration of Independence, and the Declaration of Independence said this: we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Okay, that's the beginning of the Declaration. And then he says, and are endowed by their creator, God, certain unalienable rights. Unalienable means you can't take them away from me. You can't. Alien means far away, right? So they can't be unalienable, or they are unalienable. Government can't make them alien. So God has given me these rights. I've been endowed these rights by the Creator. The government can't take them away. Yada, yada, yada. Government tries to do it. We get to overthrow the government. Some people, not all people, attempted to overthrow the government back in January. I'm not saying that everybody that went into the Capitol wanted to overthrow the government, but some of them did. They cited the Declaration of Independence. Abolish the government and start a new government. For sure. Now, what about the Antifa people in Washington State last summer? Black Lives Matter protesters. They were trying to overthrow the government as well and make it more equal, just like the people back in January. So you can look at this as either Mr. Brock gave both sides to an issue, or Mr. Brock offended both sides of an issue. Courtney's offended, but she wakes up offended every morning. Is the cat offended? Yeah, I'm lecturing all morning and it's keeping the cat awake and she's offended. Okay. Oh, hey, if we were at school, it'd be lunchtime. We're going, no way, I have 2 minutes. Boo. Oh, here comes the cat. Good God. Look at this thing.
She doesn't have to back up so she can fit on the whole
Yeah,
screen.
she can't actually fit in the entire screen.
She's...
Are you a deist? This cat. Okay. So blah blah blah. Okay, let's in these last 2 minutes at least talk about why the Enlightenment began. The first one is the Renaissance. The Renaissance, the word I would write beside Renaissance is rebirth of classical thought. Rebirth of classical thought. The next thing, exploration. The world is opening. Our view changes when we see more of the world. The next thing, do you guys remember the Reformation? Anybody know who this dude is? Say it. Mike's on.
Luther.
Martin Luther. Thank you, buddy. Martin Luther saying, I got 95 problems, but the Pope ain't one. Guys, if you're going to question your church, there's not much you're not going to question, right? You're not going to walk up to your preacher and say, you're doing this wrong. I can't believe you're doing this, right? Most people are not going to do that because it's your faith, right? It's your faith. And they really start to challenge these different ideas. And then the stupid kings. We're becoming more educated. We're seeing the world. We're questioning religion. And our kings are terrible. Our kings are unfair. So what are we going to do? We're going to really start questioning these absolute monarchs. And soon, revolution. Revolution. Oh, we almost got done. All right, so we'll come back and wrap this, talk a little bit. We'll definitely get deep into part 2 on Thursday. And I've been a little too ambitious on these lessons, which is okay because after we get through 2, they get shorter and I could combine some. So hopefully everything's okay. Thank you for coming to class. Hello, dog. Thank you for coming to class and being awesome, great people. Hopefully I'll see you guys before Thursday, one way or the other. But if I don't, I will see you on Thursday. Remember that I have email and I like to answer questions and help kids. And if I were you, go ahead and turn those notes in today and don't worry about AP World again until Thursday. Go out and make a sleep man or an ice man today. And be careful and be safe. And I'll see you soon. And bye.